Hello everybody, hope you're well, hope you're fantastic. My name is Gavin. Just wanted to welcome you to my YouTube channel, Gav Talks Property and Finances. So if this is your first time on this channel, I just wanted to say welcome, and please feel at home. And I would like to encourage you to click on that red button in order for you to subscribe. Because that will then open you up to all the content that is available on this channel, and of course everything that I'll be sharing with you going forward. Now, on the last episode, I was with my beautiful daughter Newo, and we were talking about the 3 important terms that I believe that everybody should know in 2021, right? So the terms that I was talking about is number 1, savings. Now, savings is where now you put money aside for rainy days or for emergencies. Right? So when emergencies comes, you know that you're able to have some money to cover them. I mean, last year it was a disaster when COVID-19 arrived. It was here, and all of a sudden we found ourselves in different countries having to go on lockdown, and of course that affected a lot of our income. A lot of us had salary cuts, some of us were retrenched, some of us had our businesses falling apart, and it was a mess. All right, it's still a mess even today. A lot of people are still experiencing that. So it is important and vitally important that you have reserves. Because when you have reserves, you know that, if anything pops up, you can be able to use those funds, to cover you, for a certain period. Now, whenever you're gonna put money somewhere, I know other people that put money under the bed, under the mattress. I wouldn't encourage that. If you're gonna use a facility, the financial institutions provide different facilities, so make sure that whatever facility that you're using or an account that you're using, it is flexible. So meaning that whenever the emergency comes in, you can be able to have money available at any given time. Because now, if you're gonna use an account or in a facility that's gonna lock the money, you're gonna find yourself in trouble. Unless, of course, if that facility or that account make provisions for emergencies, then it will be fine. So that is savings. Then we spoke about investments. So investments is where now you are putting money into something expecting a return. So you are intentionally growing money, all right? So this could be Bitcoin, it could be property, it could be buying shares on the stock exchange, it could be investing in a startup, whatever it is. This is generally where you're now putting money into something expecting to get more than what you put in, all right? So that's what investment is all about. And then we spoke about capital appreciation. So capital appreciation is where now you have an asset, and then that asset grows in value. So let's say you bought a property, the property is worth 100 Rand, you bought it for 100 Rand, and today it's worth 200 Rand. Now that 100 Rand value increase is called capital appreciation. So it means that now if you had to now sell the property, you will sell it a profit of 100 Rand, or you can then refinance it. You can refinance that 100 Rand. And that's what led to today's episode, where we are going to talk about refinancing. So if you are now especially investing in property actively, you definitely need to know what refinancing is all about. Now I'm going to talk about 2 aspects to refinancing and try to break them down so that you can be able to understand. Now the first part is where we're refinancing based on the terms of the loan agreement. All right. So we are refinancing based on the terms of the loan agreement. And then the second one is where we're refinancing on cash because we want to get money out. All right. So let's start talking about the terms of the loan agreement. So there's 2 aspects to it as well. So the first one is where we negotiate the interest rate. Yes, you can renegotiate the interest rate. So for example, Gavin took up a mortgage loan 3 years back. So my credit profile at the time, let's say it was very well, not terrible. Let's say my profile, my score was average, okay? And then the bank gave me, let's say, 11% or 13%. more than the prime rate. And then, today I'm sitting with an excellent credit score, right? So I can go back to the bank and say, bank, initially when I bought this property, my credit profile was not looking that great, and now it is excellent. So I want you to look at my interest rate. So I want you to move me from 11% to prime, which is 7%. Now they can do that if, of course, they are willing to do that, and if I qualify to do that, and then of course I'll find myself now having to pay 7% instead of 11%, because if I pay 7% interest on that bond, then it means that I'm saving money at the end of the day. So that's where we now saying you can negotiate on the interest rate. The second one is when we negotiate on the duration of the bond, right? So initially, let's say at the time I took up a 20-year bond, okay? So it was for 20 years and my installment was 2 rand, okay? Now I say, no man, I can actually go for 30 years, because if I go for 30 years, then it means that my installment is going to be 1 rand. So most of the time I encourage people, especially if you are actively investing in property and want to grow your portfolio, I normally encourage people to go for the maximum loan term that you can take. Because if now this is the case, it means that Gavin is going to pay 1 rand. But I would then encourage Gavin not to pay 1 rand, to pay 2 rand if Gavin can then afford to do that. Because it means that Gavin will now have a 1 rand surplus, that he's pumping into the bond. And again, I would encourage people to have what we call an access facility. So when you have an access facility, this 1 rand, which is now a surplus, which is over and above what I'm supposed to pay, will go into the access facility. Meaning that if now something happens, COVID-19 happened, and if I'm investing in property, it means that a lot of places you find that we have to reduce the rent because people are under pressure. Then of course it will affect my personal cash flow, depending on how my portfolio is structured. But then I can be able to use those funds that are sitting in that access facility to be able to cover myself for a couple of months. So it comes up as if I'm paying for 20 years, but I then have flexibility on this 1 rand that I'm paying extra on a monthly basis, because that can then be, it is flexible, and I can use it anytime I want to. All right. So this is where now I'm renegotiating the duration of my home loan, right? From 20 years to 30 years, or you can do vice versa, whatever that you want to do there. But these are the 2 aspects of looking at the terms of the loan agreement. Is number 1, interest rate, and then the other one is the duration of my bond. Now you can do both of them at the same time, it does not matter. All right. Now the second part is where we're refinancing on cash. So we want money out of this bond. Okay. Now again, there's 2 parts to it. Number 1 is when now you're refinancing on value. And then the other one is when you're refinancing on equity. Cool. So let me start with equity. So this is where now I bought this property for 100 rand. So I'm going to use property as an example. I bought this property for 100 rand. And over time, I paid 90 rand. So meaning that my balance is now sitting at 10 rand. Sorry. It's now sitting at 10 rand. So now I go to the bank and say, bank, I've paid you 90 rand. So I want that 90 rand back. So the bank says, okay, it's fine, Gavin. You can get your 90 rand back. They'll pay it into my account. And then my bond will go back to the original 100 rand. So now my current bond will be sitting at 100 rand, right? So this is where now I say on equity, because this is money that I've paid into my mortgage bond, all right? And on value, what happens is that I buy this property for 100 rand, right? So this is the original loan. And then over the years, this property increases in value to 200 rand. So let's say there's another 100 rand, which is value, and it means that my now value of the property is 200 rand. Then I go to the bank and say, bank, initially you gave me 100 rand, but now the property has grown by another 100 rand. It is sitting at 200. I want this 100 rand. I want it. Then the bank says they will do the assessments and then say, Gavin, you do qualify. So they will then give me this 100 rand, comes into my account, and then now my bond, my current bond will now be sitting at 200 rand, because that will mean that my installment now goes up. Because initially I was paying on 100 rand, now I'm going to pay on 200 rand. So what you can do, what other people are doing, is that they then take this 100 rand and buy property number 2, right? And then when you buy property number 2, you then have a tenant there, and then the tenant will now pay for the increase in the installment, right? So those are the two parts of refinancing, because you want to get cash out of your mortgage bond. Right. So I hope that this sort of paints a picture and it makes it simple. So one, on the side is where you want to change the terms of the agreement based on the fact that you want to change the interest rate and you want to change the duration of the bond. And then on the other part is where you want the money out. You want cash out of this bond. So you will then refinance on value. The value is where now the property that you have has increased, and then you want to leverage against the increase in the value. And then here is equity. So this is money that you have put into that bond and you want to get it out. And then of course, when you do that, it will then take back your bond to the original amount, or depending on how much you're going to then take out. Now, I hope that this definitely helps. It sort of like paints a picture and it gives you a simplified version of what refinancing is all about. All right. So I thought that I should share so that you can be able to have an understanding of what refinancing is all about. Anyway, so that's what I have for you for today. I hope that you can take this and be able to apply it into your life. And if you have any questions, if you have anything that you want to ask, please drop down the comments below and I'll be able to cover it with no problems. So I hope that you're going to have a fantastic and incredible time ahead, and see you next time. Gavin Mkabela signing out. Please don't forget to subscribe so that you can have access to all the content that is provided on this channel. Gavin Mkabela signing out. See you on the flip side.